All right, let's kick this shit off tonight. Excuse me. How am I going to approach this? All right, Terrence Popp here from McDarklist.com, coming from the Lair. And I got the red shirt on today, so this is bad pop, and gonna get some bad pop and maybe some evil pop advice here. Most of the stuff that was asked me is in regards to the military stuff and my opinion on what's going on in the world today. All right, well, a lot of people, I've got like 8 or 9 guys want my opinion on the Syria airstrikes or missile strikes. It's unfortunate that had to take place. I mean, this showdown was inevitable. See, what should have happened 4 or 5 years ago is a boot should have been put in somebody's ass, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. And as it's been ignored, it's getting worse and worse and worse. So, I mean, this was inevitable, so sticking your head in the sand is only going to make it worse. That is just my basic opinion on that. You know, that's really all I'm going to say to that in regards. But there's another argument here about how expensive these weapons were, and they're wasted, and blah, blah, blah. Hang on a minute. I've taken the crowbar, cut the metal bands, pried open, you know, wood boxes, crates, I mean, pretty much all the stuff that an infantry dude would use, be it a missile or a bullet or whatever, it goes boom. I've unwrapped it, I've looked at it. Every weapon, no matter what you do, has a shelf life. You make a tomahawk, sooner or later, the steel is going to rust away. You mix up explosives, it's a matter of time before the chemical bonds mess up, and you know, it's not any good anymore. And then, you know, basically like cutting edge weaponry, you got maybe 36 months before it becomes, you know, obsolete. And what I mean by that is it's no longer cutting edge. It's just another weapon in our arsenal that, or armor or what have you. Because every time you make something new, there's always a 30-pound brain on the other side figuring out a way to defeat it. And that, it just goes, it's been going like that since the beginning of time. And sooner or later, it's going to probably end us. Maybe next week, who knows? But also, another thing with these like cruise missiles is you got to understand that there's probably 100,000 parts in that particular missile, all made by the lowest bidder. Any one of those little things goes wrong, and you basically have a $1.4 million lawn dart. That's what we're talking about. Because in reality, technology and violence don't really mix, and if they do, it doesn't last very long. Every day, there's a whole ass load of ammunition weapons that are going beyond their expiration date. And the expiration doesn't mean that they're going bad. It just means they've dropped below 100% reliability. The minute they do that, it becomes a risk to reward ratio, and somewhere along the way, commanders are going to make decisions of how long that these weapons will stay on the shelves or be used until the efficiency, you know, level or the reliability level goes to a point that's unacceptable. Like you have a bunch of, I don't know, somebody was complaining on one of a couple years ago about all of these rounds that the Department of Homeland Security bought. And I was like, so what? They bought like 10 billion goddamn 10 millimeter, you know, 40 cal, whatever. Okay, I know in my head that, you know, 10 years from now, less than 10% of those bullets are going to be fired, and they're going to be basically sold as surplus to the general market because the reliability dropped below the level that's acceptable for those particular rounds. Because, you know, when you're in the middle of a gunfight, having your weapon go click and no bang is not good. So you have to rack the next round, and if you maybe you get 2 or 3 rounds in a row that don't fire, that could be it for you. All right, because today's combat is in fractions of seconds. It's not in seconds anymore, or even minutes like it was in, you know, the Civil War, where you could see guys walking up on your position for 10 or 15 minutes. That doesn't happen anymore. Somebody asked me what my opinion was on Russia. Well, when they were the USSR and what they are currently, I have nothing but the utmost respect for these individuals because they're absolutely lethal. In a lot of ways, their military-industrial complex is better than ours, and in the majority of ways, we have the advantage. But that margin is going away real quick, especially when the military-industrial complex hasn't been fed like it should be. And what I say by that is, if you want to maintain the one position in the world, you're gonna have to spend a lot of money to get there, and we really haven't done it. Because, in all honesty, I'm gonna tell you right here, war is like the last industry that we have left. Okay, it's it. I mean, you have people wanting to make middle income or middle class wages at a fast food restaurant. What is that telling you? That's telling you that a lot of these jobs are, out of the country, and they're basically, they're siphoning off us for the past, 30, since the 70s, pretty much, when they started actually doing a lot of the outsourcing. Like I said, I respect the Russians. I certainly don't want to fight them at all, ever. But at the end of the day, I've swore oaths of fealty. I enforce the last 300 meters of our foreign policy. And if that foreign policy dictates that they're at the end, then it is what it is. They'll be engaged and treated under the rules of the Geneva Convention as any other combatant we fight. So that's that. But it'll be bloody. A lot of people will die, and I can almost guarantee you that there will be radical change when that's done. Because nothing changes people's minds than, putting a lot of people in the dirt. Oh, yeah. Okay, there was a guy who made some comments, in regards to the USMC and all of the raping and killing that they did during both theaters in Iraq and Afghanistan. Okay, I mean, I've been in the military since the 80s, and I have never seen anyone be accused in any of my commands that I operated in of a beatdown rape. Okay, I've seen, people park their entire career in the Bermuda Triangle that exists below south of 8 Mile, which is the belly button, which basically, whole careers get sucked into it. There's lost time and all kinds of craziness goes on. But, from my experience, the United States military is, there are so many safety mechanisms in place that kind of shit is not going to be tolerated on, anything more. It's not tolerated at all, but these cases are probably onesie-twosie kinds of things. And, sure, the Marines are really good at putting people in the dirt, but usually they're shooting at you or some kind of risk to reward is going on. For instance, hospitals. They are not to be targeted, then we don't, for the most part. But guess what? If you put a tank in there or 3 or 4 mortar tubes and you're firing from that hospital, according to the Geneva Convention and the laws of warfare, it's now open game. So, if the enemy's gonna, play chicken shit and do shit like that and they get people killed, it is what it is. For instance, when my guys were getting shot at, we fired back. And it's just that simple. It's not murder. It's not killing anybody in cold blood. Unfortunately, it's the way the world is. Every once in a while, the foreign policies meet, and then there's some shooting, and people die, and that's just the way it is. I wish we lived in the perfect world, but we don't. Okay. This can be a little bit shorter in regards to questions, but I'm trying to go into more detail in regards to opinions and such. Okay, somebody asked me what the difference is between Special Forces, Delta, SEAL Team 6, Rangers, Paratroopers, United States Marine Corps, MARSOC, which is Marine Special Operations Command, Pararescue, Force Recon. Listen, that's a whole episode. I can't do it in, I can't address that properly in a Lair episode. But I'm probably going to do a full-blown show on this down the road. Some roles have changed, and I'm going to probably have to look it up on Wikipedia or look at some of the doctrines and so forth. And it's all open source, so it's not like it's a big deal or anything. But, I have no problem talking about that. In my opinion, on the military seeking a new rifle and or pistols or both. Okay, one, I've seen a lot of enemy guys get lit up by the 5.56, and they, were up and running within minutes. I don't really know why we went away from the 30-06. It was an effective round, had good range. If you were hit with it, you're pretty much always done. We moved to the 308. And then it became how many rounds could you carry in the 5.56, and less rounds of the 7.62, and then they went for quantity over quality. In reality, I have no idea why they haven't come up with used a 6.5 round. It's got really good ballistics, shoots pretty flat out to 1,000 meters, has good knockdown power. But it'll require the retooling and the rebuying of an entire, 2 armies worth of weapons, one for the Marine Corps, one for the Army, and then, the other branches will break down into it too. Typically, having more than one rifle for the entire service as standard issue is not good. If you're going to pick one, it's one rifle for everyone, the Marine Corps, the Army, blah, blah, blah. You can get away with this on pistols. I have no idea why we moved away from the 45 caliber. We should just double stack the magazine. There's just something romantic about pulling out a 45 caliber, pulling the trigger, and then seeing the bullet fly down range. That's that's pretty cool. If 9mm is too fast, a lot of the energy from the 9mm burns right through an individual. You don't dump enough of the energy into them to do substantial damage unless you use, hollow point bullets, which we're not supposed to use, which we don't. Yeah, but that pretty much covers that. Now, somebody else asked me another question on the tail of that is, what do I think is on the horizon in regards to weapons and new technology? Okay, listen, I'm not I'm an evil genius, so I can touch on this lightly, but I'm not in the know of exactly what's going on down there, but I have a good idea. All right, we're going to see in the next couple decades, we're going to see a lot of the tanks get smaller and lighter, and then they're going to move over to being remote. So they'll either be self-operating or controlled from one individual or at a distance. So they're unmanned. The weak point will be actually trying to sever the link between the actual mechanical tanks or automated tanks and the controllers. And if they actually put some kind of programming or artificial intelligence in there, I don't think that the artificial intelligence will get actually, self-aware, what they say in the sci-fi world, for a long time to come. For that to happen, there has to be a hell of a lot more, bandwidth, quickness, and hard drive sizes. Now, I know that they're moving to some type of crystal hard drive, which is an insane amount of storage capacity. I do not know if it can actually reach it with that or not. But I'm sure it's probably going to be getting close, but you're not going to see that anytime inside the next 30 to 50 years. Drones being used a lot more. You're going to see a lot of drone swarms because it's really not that big of a jump. We have cluster bombs now, and basically the drones are getting so small you can actually turn the cluster bombs into heat sinking, whatever, and those will become absolutely devastating because cluster bombs basically cover an area. That's bad enough. I mean, they pretty much cover a whole click and a half. Now imagine doing that and then having each one of those cluster bombs being able to go into foxholes or target living, warm targets. It's absolutely devastating. Okay, you're going to see a lot of explosive form projectiles, EFPs. They started getting used in Iraq regularly when I was there towards the end of 2004. In reality, it's basically a new remake of a platter charge, which was perfected, I believe, at the end of World War I. But it didn't really see a lot of, it wasn't perfected well enough until in the past 25 years or so. And what that really does is it takes a platter of copper or whatever alloy they wish to use, and behind that they detonate a high explosive, which takes that platter and fires it forward at insane speeds, and it pretty much punches through any armor that we have right now. And that is going to be used up until we perfect the railgun system, which you can watch on YouTube. Right now it's big. It has to be probably carried around in destroyers or battleships. But, you know, like anything else, we're evil hairless monkeys, and they're going to perfect it till it's smaller. And when you have railguns that could, you know, fire from machine gun platforms and, you know, from that size be able to punch through 5 or 6 inches of steel, then the explosive form projectiles are going to go away, and they're going to go strictly with rail guns and so forth. You're going to see lasers come into play. Right now they're pretty big. They'll get smaller. There will also be probably some other types of high energy beam weapons, either like plasma or you know, microwave, you know, such stuff. I know they have, I don't know, I mean, I read about this. They have like a beam weapon which agitates the water molecules in the air between the weapon and its target, and then is able to, you know, basically fire either a stunning force or enough energy down that link between the weapon and its target to kill it or destroy it. The key here is, and this is going to be the next arms race, and it's going to probably get a lot worse before it gets even better. You're going to see, I know there's treaties and stuff, I haven't read up on it, but you're going to see the fight for satellite orbital weapons platforms. Because whoever has that, you know, basically you're going to have say over whatever happens on the face of the planet. Because when you are in space and you can look at everything from, you know, that viewpoint and actually pick stuff out of the air and do whatever you want, that's it. It's a game ender right there. So that's going to be big in the next probably 2 to 4 decades. I'm actually writing about this, or putting together a sci-fi couple novel ideas I'm probably going to work on down the road when I get some time. If I live that long, we'll see. Okay, now another problem we're running into is simply this: is basically all of the weapons that we have been designed to kill human beings. All right, when you fire a anti-tank weapon into a tank, you basically dump so much energy into it that the people inside either get sucked out the hole or they die, and they stop, operating the tank. Now, if you can operate that tank at that same level of effectiveness without having human beings in it, you can see how much harder it is to stop, because now you have to make weapons that will be able to do enough damage and destroy enough portions of the mechanized or robotic tank to stop it. You can knock a track off fairly easy, but that's just a mobility kill, and it can still squeeze off the rest of its rounds and be a royal pain in the ass to get by until it runs out of ammo or you disable it. Okay, another thing that's going to probably go down, you're going to see another wave of new, more powerful conventional explosives because they will be able to mix them at a molecular level. Instead of adding, 2 or 3 chemicals together to make a compound, you're going to be able to build those compounds up and customize them to be way more wicked than they are. I mean, basically C4 is fairly efficient in what it does, but if you can actually, build it from the molecular level up or the subatomic level up, which that's probably 100 years down the road, you can probably maximize the actual energy conversion to happen a lot faster and more efficient and just be way more lethal. On the flip side, you're going to see a lot of alloys, armor, lightweight stuff being, assembled at the, subatomic level up or molecular level up. And, you're going to see new types of steel which are assembled at the molecular level much more efficiently than they are now, which will add a hell of a lot more strength. And you could probably add some stuff in there to lighten them. Not to mention there's probably 5 or 6 types of alloys or Kevlar-like substances in the works that you're going to see come into play too. Not to mention you're going to see like a 3D printing of a lot of armor plates and so forth. And then they'll probably weave those together into a three-dimensional folding, which will make it even infinitely more tough. So, I mean, that's just, me thinking of evil shit that if I was, on the other side of the line, what I would do or what I would think of. In regards to, nerve agent and biological agents, they're really, they could probably make them deadlier, but there becomes a point where they're so goddamn deadly that you're not going to let them out because they'll kill everybody. But hey, we're humans, we do stupid shit, so that could go down that way too. Anyway, I watched the news. They're basically sending a bunch of ships out to Korea, and we're going to see some craziness going on. Now, in regards to that, this is just my opinion, if you have one guy who's running a whole country, and that one country is threatening to, kill a bunch of people and screw up the economies of the entire world, well, I think a couple guys, there might be a meeting of the minds, and somebody just might have to get a JFK haircut, roll the tape, a little off the top. And, you're going to fight a whole war and kill 1 million people, or you just shoot one guy. Or maybe he dies of a new flu or some accelerated TB virus or whatever. Who knows? Things happen. There's always shit like that, I'm an evil guy. I think about stuff like that. But yeah, hopefully calmer heads will prevail, and there won't be too much craziness, because I've seen enough craziness. Anyway, that's my time. I hope you have a good evening, and have a couple shots on me, and sleep in tomorrow, because you know what? If you're going to die, die well rested. Talk to you later.